Hey crew, a little video today to talk about the propaganda and our confirmation bias and to show you some examples and give you some actual real facts about what's happening in the world. The kind of facts you don't see on your news because they want you to believe the propaganda. They want you to believe whatever propaganda they're working to promote. The fact is we all have some confirmation bias. We all have beliefs and we want to prove those beliefs. It's human nature. But it becomes a real problem when the confirmation bias overrides reality to the point where we refuse to actually analyze and critically look at what it is that we believe. Looking back, I can see over the years all my different confirmation biases that I had to overcome to really see. And there's probably many more I'm still struggling with. But let's look at one in particular that we hear a lot of. We hear a lot about Mexico is terrible. We need to shut down the border. We need a wall. And I keep saying, guys, they're locking down our borders. There's exit check stations in place already. The wall is being built to keep you in. And people say, no, look at the violence. And then to push that, to confirm their bias of wanting to believe that it's still okay, it's still good, we're still the greatest in the USA, they'll find things that balance that in their mind. The news feeds them things because they know they'll share. Here's a perfect example of that, all right? California official gunned down while vacationing in Mexico. This Douglas Bradley, sad story here, and he was down in a resort town on the Pacific coast, and he was murdered down here. Now, I don't know exactly what happened or what was behind it, but this is a sad story. Here's the same story here on the Daily Mail, right? And they're talking about all the violence in Mexico. Here's a list, right? Now, it's interesting. Think about this. There's murders in cities all over the world every day, and yet somehow, because this is a official from California, it's national news. Why is that? Well, because it feeds the confirmation bias. It feeds the people that want to believe a place is bad because we can say in our minds, oh, if the officials are even getting killed, it's really bad there. It's really bad. Now, what people aren't really talking about is this murder occurred in one of the most violent places in Mexico, in the most violent state in Mexico. And I'm not saying that's good. The locals even look down there and they say, man, that place is getting violent. And it's out of control. And it is, but it's out of control all over the world. So we have to oppose violence and human abuse wherever we see it. But what we can't do is fail to critically analyze. Some patriot people that don't like it, that I'm calling out the USA, that I walked away and said standing up, resisting, is refusing to comply with the courts. It's refusing to show up for court, for jail. It's leaving to be a patriot, to protect your family, and to find freedom for your people, if need be. Now, I really want the USA to be free, but it's not. And we know it's not going to happen until it all comes crashing down, because the USA is too busy waving flags and worshiping police to be free. They want to be slaves. My people want to be slaves. And it breaks my heart. So they shared this post and they were mocking me without actually saying my name, but everybody in the community knew, right? And I get what they're doing. I get that they're frustrated, and I don't hold it against them, but they're saying, "Oh, look, another killing in Mexico. It must just all be propaganda, right?" And I'm thinking, actually that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what's being shared. This is propaganda, because you don't see an article like this for the people killed in Chicago. There's a person murdered in Chicago every 8 hours. There's a shooting in Chicago every 2 hours. But there's something else that nobody wants to talk about. The police in the USA execute a civilian every 7 hours. Now, this isn't some made-up propaganda. This is the facts. Here's a list on killed by police. We just rounded off 2017 with 1,188 police executions. On the day in question that this man in Mexico was murdered, the police killed 6 people. So in that same day that people are saying, look how violent Mexico is, a city official from California vacationing there was murdered. On that same day, the police in the USA murdered 6 people. All right, now people say, oh, they were defending themselves, they're doing their job. No, they weren't. They were extorting, they were robbing, they were kidnapping, they were detaining. And everybody has a right to defend themselves, but the fact is The fact is, and you can go look at the documented cases, you can watch the videos of the police murdering people, they're not protecting themselves. They're out committing crimes against humanity and violating our Constitution, and they're calling it self-defense. And it's not self-defense, it's murder in almost every case. And you know what? Out of the almost 1,200 people that were executed by U.S. police in 2017, only 12 were prosecuted in a year of 1,200 people. Less than 1%, or maybe that's 1%. 1%. Now, it's interesting because is there violence in Mexico? Yes. Is there problems that actually have real problem areas? Yes. Who's funding the drug war? Yes, the USA is. The drug war was created and is funded by them, and they pay Mexico billions of dollars to keep it going, just like they spend billions of dollars to keep the propaganda machine going, just like the news media plays along for the benefits that they get, and your churches play along for their tax breaks. Everybody is feeding propaganda, and you have to start asking critical questions. Did you know that in Mexico, yeah, there's violence and there's problems, but it's in different areas. Just like this state is more violent, Chicago is also extremely violent. Detroit is violent. But you know what? In Mexico, you're not as crazy as you think. See, nobody wants to share. They actually call me a liar when we look up the facts because I don't want to be driven by propaganda from either side. So we look up the facts, and you know what? In the U.S., you're twice as likely to be kidnapped. You're twice as likely to be raped. You're 3 times likely to commit suicide in the USA. But that's not even counting the kidnappings by police, locking people in jail for non-crimes. That's not even counting the human trafficking from child services all across the USA. See, what's happening is confirmation bias. People want to believe in their nationalistic patriotism. They want to believe in this idea we've been promoting that the police are good and the veterans saved our freedom, when in fact, the police are at war with our rights, and the servicemen are duped into crossing the ocean to fight foreign wars, illegal under our Constitution, for money and power and oil, instead of defending the rights that they swore an oath to defend. Propaganda destroys us. Our confirmation bias, it fuels us. And these articles come up and we say, yeah, that agrees with what I think. We don't really have to analyze it because we can convince ourselves when we live in confirmation bias that what we think is true, that America is better because of a sensationalized news article. And you can find plenty of those about Mexico because the U.S. is spending billions on propaganda. And they don't want you to realize that people have more personal liberty, that there's less police abuse on the streets, that cops down here don't get away with simply executing hundreds of people on the side of the road. They don't want you to know that there's actual near free markets down here and people having businesses that are not even comparable to the USA. They don't want you to know that you're a slave, because as long as you think you're still the greatest and the bestest, you'll keep bowing down and saluting and waving the flag and going to the parades. And to confirm all those beliefs that you've long held all your life, you'll keep sharing the propaganda and spreading those seeds of lies to your neighbors. Folks, we have to love our neighbor and our family and ourselves enough to be critical thinkers and to realize what real freedom and liberty is. Give it a try. Throw out your confirmation bias and dig into the facts wherever you are and whatever's being spread. See what's really happening. Better yet, go there and see for yourself. Just some thoughts, guys. Peace. Here's to 2018.